Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Five Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. Thank you so much for joining us on the Five Star Revolution podcast. If you haven't already, go over to Facebook right now and like our Facebook page, Five Star Revolution Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Tonight, we have a very special guest, and his name is Stuart Snodgrass. How you doing tonight, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. Thanks for joining us here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So this is an icebreaker that I do with every single guest that comes on my show. So you're gonna be no different. I want to know, were you a fan of pro wrestling growing up? And if so, who are some of your favorites?
Absolutely. I was a big fan growing up, even though I was not allowed to watch wrestling. But my favorite wrestlers were Macho Man, Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart. Those are the ones that I really like.
Those are all great wrestlers, man. Mr. Perfect is my all-time favorite.
Uh,
It's such a shame that he never won the big one.
I know he's so great. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
I absolutely agree, man. He's one of the best in-ring technicians of all time, and his gimmick was on point. So I agree with you. So why weren't you allowed to watch wrestling? What's going on there?
Well, back in that time, my mom just she didn't really like it. I wasn't allowed to watch it. I would try to get VCR tapes from friends and try and sneak and watch them, but uh, yeah, I ended up watching them all though.
I'm assuming that you got caught once or twice.
Yeah. Most people my age were trying to sneak pornography, and I'm trying to sneak like SummerSlam.
So later down in your life, when was that time that you said, I want to do this? I want to become a pro wrestler.
Probably about the late '90s. That's I just I'm still a big fan of '80s and '90s wrestling. That's when I really got into it. So about that time,
All right. So what did your mom and dad think about that when you said, "Hey, mom, I want to do this. I want to become a pro wrestler now."
she asked me like, "Why you never even watched it?" And it's like, but I mean, she supported me. I mean, I was grown by then, so there's worse things I could do, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm just asking that because some parents are like, "Oh man, that's ridiculous. That's not a career."
Yeah, yeah, it is what it is. She didn't deter me from it, but she wasn't all gung ho either. But it's all
Did
right.
she ever go to your shows or in support?
No, she's out of state.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So how did you find out about pro wrestling school in your area when you first started?
So actually, I started training in Oswego, New York, in 1998, and then I stopped wrestling in 2002, and then I ended up taking 15 years off and started training in 2017 at High Spots under George South and Caleb Conley and James Drake.
George South is a very well known enhancement talent. No disrespect to George South. They say well, Ric Flair said it himself that he was the best opponent that he's ever faced in the ring.
That is
So
true.
how was it to train with George South? He knows his stuff, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Trading with George is wonderful. He's he's great. He just wants he legitimately wants to leave the business better than he found it. Like I know that's cliche, but he actually lives it. I mean, he teaches you how to wrestle and he teaches you how to not be an idiot, which he takes great pride in. So it's great learning from George.
And he's still active, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I don't know as if he'll ever stop.
So are you still actively training with high spots or?
So unfortunately, High Spots training closed. They ended up losing the building. So I'm actually training close by in Matthews, North Carolina, with Lodi, who used to wrestle in WCW. He has a training school, Team Fearless, at Your Flex Academy. So I've been training there with him, and other people will come in and help with training, like Arn Anderson, and I'm training there with my partner Keith Mack. We have a little tag team going, so um, I've learned from a bunch of people. And when I was in New York, I learned under Zachary Springate III, who was trained by Walter Killer Kowalski in Boston. So I've
That's
hit a
where
lot of
that's where I'm from.
really.
Yep, yep.
You've heard of Walter?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah. I would hope so.
So, you said that you started off in 97, 98, right?
98, yes.
And then you went up until 2002, and then you
Yep.
took that long break. What happened there?
So at the end of 2002, I hurt my neck in a match, and I had a handful of concussions because um, I wasn't very protective of myself, let's just say, when I was younger. So I ended up hurting my neck, and then I just ended up giving it up. Um, Met a girl who's my wife now, and um, took 15 years off. Fast forward, I have two sons. I brought my 9-year-old to a wrestling event, uh, and he was all into it. And I told him, kind of like matter of factly, I was like, I used to do that when I was younger. And he kind of laughed at me. And he was like, you couldn't do that now. I was 39 at the time. He's like, you couldn't do that now. And then I got home and I told my wife, and she kind of was just like, well, you couldn't do that now. And my oldest son too, he was like, you're almost 40 years old. You can't do that now. And so I don't know if you have kids, but if you do, when they don't believe in you, that's a tough pill to swallow. So uh, not too long after that, I called up High Spots and signed up for training, as kind of try and prove them wrong. For being
So,
honest.
so your sons are what made you come back to the wrestling business,
Yeah. I
or
have
were you
two.
wrestling already?
No, I was just bringing him to that show. He wanted to go watch a show because he always watched like WWE on TV, and they weren't coming around for a while. And we went to a show, and yeah, I just matter of factly said, and I don't know, kind of lit a fire under me.
So when you came back after 15 years off of wrestling, how'd you feel, man? How'd you feel in the ring? Did everything come back to natural, or were you sore as hell?
Oh, I'm always sore. I think about getting sore, and I get sore. The first, I want to say 3 months. I mean, it was strenuous. I had to fight through it, but I had to prove to my wife and kids. You know, I had to prove that I could do it, and that's what that's what just kept me going. If nothing else, at the end of the day, I taught my sons, like, don't let anybody tell you can't do anything. You know what I mean? So
That's a good father figure right there, man.
yeah,
I really appreciate that right there.
thank you.
So back then, were you known as Stuart Snodgrass, or what was your gimmick back then?
Yeah, I was actually Jimmy Plant. I was a hippie. Um, I had the tie dye shirt and the glasses and the long hair and the goatee, and I was a hippie. I did that gimmick, and then when I came back, and I was training. I didn't really have a gimmick idea, And then I talked to a good friend of mine, Josh, who's a promoter in the Northeast, and he asked me if I would wear pants. And I sweat a lot, and I'm like, I don't want to wear pants, you know. And he's like, well, forget it. And I was like, well, you know, why would he got for an idea? And he's like, a nerd. And I'm like, I could do that, just not with pants. So we got brainstorming, and that's the type of gimmick I have now. So it's totally different, but it's a new challenge.
So let's go a little bit more deep into that, man. I want to know. I'm sure the fans that are listening that don't know who you are. Who is Stuart Snodgrass? What's the gimmick about?
So Stuart is he's a nerd. He's a virgin. He's a mama's boy. Uh, he knows he's the underdog. He knows everybody's bigger, stronger, faster. You know, he's just trying to win. Just anything he can do to win. And the character likes to have fun because it's almost like he can't even believe he's here. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
I like that. That's cool. So, are you ready for a challenge, my friend?
sure.
I do this to every single guest that comes on my podcast. You're gonna be no different. The challenge is to cut a promo for like 30 seconds in character on anything you want. Do you think you can do it?
Sure.
All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, give me 1 sec here. Got my little interstellar propeller over here. Okay. Let's see here. Hello, my name is Stuart, and I've listened to every single podcast in the known universe. And according to my calculations, the best podcast in the entire universe just happens to be your podcast. Isn't that amazing?
That's awesome, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So I noticed you have a baseball cap on. Are you a baseball fan?
Oh, big baseball fan, yeah.
Who's your team?
I like the Yankees.
All right, this podcast is over.
I like the Giants too. I'm just a big baseball fan. I'm trying to see every ballpark.
Me too. My goal this year is to go to Baltimore, Philly, and Washington.
So I have been to Baltimore and Philly within the last couple of years, and they're both beautiful ballparks. When you go to Baltimore, it's near the harbor, and they have great seafood if you like seafood.
I don't like seafood, unfortunately.
Okay, well, if you want to impress somebody else, there's great seafood near the stadium.
All right, sounds good. And I also want to go to Atlanta because of the hotel that's right next to the ballpark right there. They have like a nice little view, so I would love to go to. So, the lockout is over, which is awesome.
Indeed.
Boston did great today on the first spring training game, 14-1.
Congrats.
Thank you. Spring training doesn't mean anything, but it's a good sign, you know?
I just want everybody to stay healthy.
Exactly. Yes, me too. So, in pro wrestling, what's one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
When I first started, truthfully, I underestimated the pain. That's probably the biggest one. And now that I'm older too, like, whew, it takes a couple days to recover.
I agree with you there, man. The pain is real, and I want to know your opinion on that. Like, what do you think about those people that think wrestling is fake?
Well, actually, George had an open invite to anybody to come to training that thought wrestling was fake. Like, that's just I don't know. It's people not knowing what they're talking about. Like I can't tell you how many times in all of my trainings throughout the years where somebody came in, it was their first day of training. Uh, they go to take their first bump, and the old joke is, "Where's your bathroom?" And then they go to the bathroom, and then you never see them again. So, I mean, we used to take bets back in the day because late '90s, everybody and their brother was trying to get into wrestling schools and get into wrestling, and so many people came in and couldn't even make it past the first hour of training. People don't realize the average person. I don't think they realize what goes into it and what occurs.
I've heard that taking a bump is the equivalent of a 40-mile-an-hour car crash.
Yeah, I there's been days where I felt like I was in a car crash. A lot of people think that the ring is a trampoline, or I actually like when the fans stay after and watch the ring get taken down so they can see that's just wood and steel. There's no spring, or that hurts.
I can attest to that because I used to be a pro wrestler myself in my area. I
Hmm.
did it for 10 years, bro, and I retired about 3 years ago because of how painful it is. Like my body told me to stop no more. My bump card has been drawn.
I and we all have one, and Father Time is undefeated.
So, wrestling in your 40s, you're in your 40s, correct?
Yes, I will be 46 in May.
How does that feel like being an older person backstage with all these young guys around you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these performers are my oldest son's age. I have a 21-year-old. Uh, um, it's different, but I enjoy. I like seeing the progression of the performers as they go along. It's cool for me to see, so I enjoy that. I want everybody to make it. You know what I mean? I want to see everybody on my TV.
I wish, man.
Yeah, I'm rooting for a lot of people. I just want you know, I see people following their dreams, especially the ones that are really working for it, and I'm rooting for them.
So I was curious. You did wrestling in the late 90s to the early 2000s, and now you're
Hmm.
doing wrestling now. Can you compare the differences of that 15-year gap?
Uh, I'd say speed. A lot of matches are faster now. You have a lot of. I think wrestling's more athletic now. Um, but yeah, I would say speed.
So back then it was a little bit more slower, a little bit more methodical.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of like that. Sorry about that. I kind of like that pace. Um, I'm a gimmick guy, so I'm trying to interact with the crowd and have fun and outsmart my opponent. Like I can't. I'm not going a mile a minute. Flipping
So
here and diving there.
is that your style in the ring more methodical, more slow paced?
Yes, I'm trying to outsmart my opponent.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I would love to see one of your matches sometime.
Yeah, I'll send you some links.
So, what are you looking to get out of this business? Like, what's your ultimate goal?
If I'm being brutally honest, I think I would like an opportunity to perform in front of a major company, like a tryout match. I think ultimately that would be my goal at this point. If that never happens, I'm okay with that. Like I said, I've taught my sons not to quit or have somebody tell them that they can't do something. I've made lifelong friends. I've met my idols. Like, I'm going to be at a show this Saturday. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's going to be there. Like, I'm 46, so Ricky means a little different to me. I grew up watching Ricky, so
I
uh,
don't know if you ever had the pleasure of meeting Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in your career yet, but I met him twice. The
hmm
dude is a freaking amazing, super nice, super humble, and great advice.
yeah. That I met him once. I just said hello, but I'm looking forward to picking his brain this Saturday.
Absolutely, man. And I hope you enjoy that. You're gonna get a lot of information.
Indeed.
So let's say you don't make it to the big time. When it's all said and done, when you're done in the in ring competition, do you want to stay in the business somehow? And if so, what do you want to do?
Um, I would. I wouldn't mind staying in the business, whether it be booking or something of locally or something like that.
Booking. Okay. Booking is fun, man. I did it a couple times. It's fun, but sometimes it's annoying because the talent is political.
Yeah, I know. And see, that's another thing too with wrestling. Like I'm almost 46 years old. Like I'm just trying to get to my next match. I'm trying to have fun. Like I ain't trying to step on anybody's toes or get ahead of anybody. You
So
know,
how do you deal with that? How do you deal with backstage politics?
it, it's it's very hard because I really do leave my ego at the door. Like I'm just happy to be there. I'm happy to learn and to perform and to have fun. It's hard. I'm just nice to everybody. The old treat people the way you'd like to be treated. That's how I roll, and I try and block out the politics and everything.
I wish a lot of people were like you, man, because honestly, backstage politics, especially in the independents, it shouldn't be a thing, but unfortunately, with this business, it is.
There's so much ego involved in it. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So I want to ask you a slightly personal question.
Okay.
How do you balance life with your professional wrestling?
Well, first and foremost, my wife is very supportive of me. She thinks it's great. We travel around, and if I have to work or wrestle in a city, we'll try and plan a weekend around that city. Or so, my oldest is 21. He's in college. He's actually forward for the UNCC hockey team, which we're very proud of, and my youngest is a musician, and he's doing well. They sometimes they come to my shows. I'll go to their hockey games, or bring them to play music. We just kind of all coexist. They still think it's cool, you know.
That's good. That's good, man. I'm happy that you have a huge support system behind you.
Yeah, it's very nice to have because not everybody in this business has that.
Exactly. Which leads to my next question. Do you think having a support system in this business is a thing that you need to succeed?
I don't know if it's. I don't want to say it's something you need. I mean, eh, uh, it's surprising what motivates people. I don't think you need it. I think it surely helps. Surely helps. But there's a lot of wrestlers that come from a background where their family doesn't like wrestling or they hate wrestling and they think you're just throwing your life away and stuff like that, and they wanna make it in spite of them. You know what I mean? So they can tell them, hey, I made it and you didn't believe in me. So I understand that aspect too.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. There's a lot of ways that you can get motivated and prove people wrong.
Mm,
Absolutely.
it is quite the motivator.
So a couple more questions before I let you go, Mr. Snodgrass.
Okay.
I'm sure that you have at least one funny road story that you can tell us.
Funny road story. I don't know. Try I can't think off the top of my head, to be honest with you. A road story.
or a backstage story?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Come
I
on.
I have an interest. So I was in a match. I was coming off the top rope with a double X handle, like the Macho Man, and we were in a Legion Hall, and there was a ceiling fan, and I didn't think I could jump that far. Well, evidently I could, and I jumped, and I still got the scar. I probably can't see it in the camera, but I hit the ceiling fan, and it cut me, and it bled all over the place. So I was attacked by a fan, I always say. But yeah, it bled all over the place. It was quite disgusting.
You
But at
attack
least,
you
what's that?
I would say you were attacked by a fan during that match.
A ceiling fan, yes.
Oh, I thought you meant like an actual.
The ceiling fan. So yeah, I always tell people, yeah, I was attacked by a fan. They left me bloody.
Okay, I get the joke. I get the joke. Okay, that's a good one. Okay. So my last question for me is, what can we expect out of Stuart Snodgrass in the next 3 years?
So I've been doing my tag team with Keith Mack. We're called the Other Guys. That's been successful. We're going to be going into Georgia soon, in the Carolinas, and we're doing that. I'm just, it's tough to say. I'm just riding the wave. Like you said, eventually Father Time's going to tap me on the shoulder, like, "Hey, bump card's expired, time to go."
Exactly.
So I'm just wrestling until that day happens, and whatever happens, happens. I'm having the time of my life. My tag team partner's great. He's a great friend, great tag team partner. Um, it's I'm just having fun.
That's good to hear, man. That you're still having fun and you're still enjoying what you're doing, and I'm sure we'll see you on TV someday.
I hope so. I hope so.
So where can our followers follow you on social media?
So if you put my name Stuart Snodgrass into to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I'm trying to be more active with my YouTube channel, putting up my promos and matches that I've been having. So I'm on all of those platforms. I'm on TikTok too, but I haven't figured out how to do it. But Keith Mack, who's my tag team, like a TikTok legend. He's got thousands of followers, and
Well, there you go, folks. Go follow my friend Stuart Snodgrass on all those social media platforms. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Five Star Revolution Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Mr. Stuart Snodgrass, we thank you so much for joining us on the Five Star Revolution Podcast, and we wish you the best of luck in your career, my friend.
thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's been fun.
I appreciate it. Have a good night, man.
Take care.
Go Red Sox.